This is part 2 of our podcast, where we're going to be talking about the series that came out this year and our feelings about them, and not just new series, but also new seasons of series that we've been following for a while now. Enjoy. Alright, next section. We talked about movies a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean quite a bit. But we're not done yet, because 2022 also had series. And we probably won't talk as much through these. We'll see how distracted I get, because I got ADHD, so I'm going to go on tangents. Big ones for this year. Stranger Things, Season 4. Marty, I don't think you're caught up yet, are you?
I am not.
It was okay. It had a good scene with Metallica, and I always love Metallica. So I'll give them props for that. We'll always give props to Metallica, unless they're playing one of their bad songs. But I feel like they only have bad songs if you're listening to them on the radio. Because when we saw them live, I mean, they played songs that I thought were bad songs, and it was way better live.
I did fall asleep when they were playing live. But in case you haven't noticed, in this series, I fall asleep in a lot of entertaining things.
Yeah, well, also to be fair, he was very sleepy and has sleep disorders, so
I'm a sleepy boy.
Be nice to him. Yeah, so Stranger Things, it was okay. Moon Knight was this year. Did you watch Moon Knight?
I did, yeah.
It was okay, yeah.
I liked it. It had a lot of slow parts, but I think it was still pretty good overall.
Yeah, I can't remember having any problems with it.
Yeah, I think my only issue is just how slow it was, and there was a lot of dull scenes, but I guess that's kind of expected for, setup story.
Right. I liked Scarab, or whatever her name is, her little suit at the end. And then everything I've always read was he's just Marvel Batman, but with, mental disorders. And maybe the, throwing things and wearing a cape and coming out at night part is Batman. Okay, maybe he is kind of like Batman, but with multiple personalities. I'm interested to see where they go with it, because now that they've got that serial killer personality or whatever, the cab driver guy, or not cab driver, limo driver, whatever that personality is, I think it'd be interesting. I haven't watched it since it came out, so that was quite a while ago at this point.
Yeah, same.
But I did like it. I do remember liking it, but it's also what got my wife to stop wanting to watch Marvel shows with me. So I guess it was kind of boring.
It was boring. It's something that you kind of just have to binge, I think. If you're watching one episode at a time, you're going to get bored.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. Speaking of Disney Plus, Obi Wan came out. A lot of anticipation for Obi Wan. Everybody was looking forward to Obi Wan. Gets Hayden Christensen's back as Darth Vader. Ewan McGregor's back as Obi Wan Kenobi. And we got our first ever live action clone trooper with an actual Tamora Morrison wearing actual clone armor.
For me, the series met my expectations. Loved it. I don't think there was anything about it that I really can dog on. I loved all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I see what people were complaining about online. I didn't have the same complaints. The people not being able to catch Leia at the beginning because they were running a Benny Hill thing, didn't bother me. It's a kid's show. It's Star Wars. I don't know what you're expecting.
I know the main thing that I heard people complaining about was Reva.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't like her. Yeah, you reminded me. I don't like her.
I don't know. I don't necessarily dislike her. As the series went on, I had no problem with her.
I can't remember why I disliked her, but she's a forgettable character. I mean, she was a huge part of that show, and I forgot about her until you just said her name. Understood why she was angry. I understand how they connected that to Obi Wan Kenobi, but it doesn't make it rational to me. I can't rationalize it.
In the end, she made the switch.
I mean, she hated Anakin. She also knew Darth Vader was Anakin, and still went after Obi Wan Kenobi instead of just trying to go after Anakin when she was an Inquisitor, where she already had access to Anakin.
Fear makes you do crazy things.
I don't know. So does bad writing. When Darth Vader, the ship.
Yes.
Oh my god.
So yeah, the meat and potatoes, right? Darth Vader, Obi-Wan, fight scenes. And yeah, we could start there with the Reva Darth Vader fight scene. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
He beat her. She had 2 lightsabers and
smoked her.
He smoked her just with the Force.
He's like, I don't even need a lightsaber, fam. I'll smack you around.
He took her lightsaber and then gave it back to her and was like, bring it.
I'm just imagining Darth Vader like squatting at the knees and just going, "Come and get it."
Yeah. And then just him like pulling down that ship. That was badass.
Man.
Oh man. I got the heebie-jeebies.
Oh yeah.
I got
100%.
goosebumps.
And after we're done recording this, we're gonna rewatch it.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I love that scene. That's got to be top 5 coolest things ever in Star Wars. Number 1, also Darth Vader, and also not from one of the mainline movies, Rogue One.
Oh yeah.
Hallway fight scene. Holy smokes.
Oh yeah.
Right up there with it is his son doing the exact same thing to Dark Troopers in Mandalorian. I love me some Skywalker hallway scenes.
Luke is not one of my favorite characters, but yeah, you're right. Still a bad scene with the Dark Troopers.
I'm going to give you a hot take, Marty. I don't like Luke that much either. I'm not going to lie. Even before the sequel trilogy, I didn't like Luke that much.
Same.
But I still think what they did to Luke in the sequel trilogy was all kinds of wrong.
Agreed. Anyway, back to Obi Wan series.
Darth Vader was so good.
Yeah, so Darth Vader, when they locate Obi-Wan, they know what planet he's on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Darth Vader shows up. He goes through that town, and he's just yeeting people against the wall. And then he uses the Force and snaps a neck, and then drags a body down the road.
Man, what a savage, man.
Brutal. Bad. You talk about the fear of Darth Vader, like everybody in the universe fears him. Now you see it.
Oh, yeah. Now you see why.
Yeah.
And when they show his face at the end, and he's like,
I am what you made me.
it's like, oh, man. And props to the lighting team or the cinematographer, whoever is responsible for it. Whenever Anakin was talking, it had the reflection of the blue lightsaber on his face. Mm-hmm. But then when he goes back to being Vader, it goes back to being red. And I thought that was really good. I like that. I heard a lot of complaints about this show, but honestly, I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, they could have put a lot of garbage stuff in it, and I still would have loved it because of Hayden and Ewan McGregor and just the fight scenes, the action scenes. It was so good.
If that show was one 5-minute episode of those two fighting, I would have been like, it's the best show ever made.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like when you start a new season of PUBG and you get lucky with a chicken dinner against bots in your first match, and then you never play it again, but your record is 100%. I have a 100% win rate on PUBG. That's exactly what it would have been like if they did just the fight scene and nothing else. 100% win rate. That would have been a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes right there.
Oh yeah.
Love the show. Love Darth Vader. Love Obi Wan Kenobi. Cannot wait to see them back in Ahsoka, maybe?
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But the one other fight scene that you got to talk about with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, where they're in a rock area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Obi-Wan is getting crushed under the rocks, right?
Right.
And then he flips the script, and you actually see how powerful Obi-Wan is.
Oh, yeah.
For the longest time, I really didn't like Obi-Wan. Really, I didn't start liking him until this series, because I always thought he was a terrible Jedi, not really a good fighter compared to Anakin and, of course, Mace Windu. But you actually see he's a pretty good fighter. There's a reason he beat Anakin.
So Anakin is the NBA, where Obi-Wan is the WNBA. They've got the technique down, right? What do they always say about WNBA?
You can't see it, but my face is like, what the fuck?
So Anakin, powerful, exciting, wild, right? Where Obi-Wan is by the book. All right, this is how you play. This is
fundamentals.
The fundamentals.
Yeah.
He's got the fundamentals, Marty. That's what makes Obi-Wan Obi-Wan. He's a fundamentalist. And that's why he's so different than Anakin. And also why Anakin could never have been saved by Obi-Wan. Because Obi-Wan is way too wooden.
Yeah, he needed Qui-Gon.
He needed Qui-Gon. But when it comes to how powerful he is, he's always been a strong guy. He's just more of a do it by the letter, stuck with the Jedi code and Jedi way, where Anakin was a little more cocky and liked to do his own thing and commit war crimes. Speaking of, real quick, I gotta just mention this one little thing from an earlier fight that Darth Vader set him on fire.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Oh.
Now we're talking about Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Man, those fight scenes were so good.
Now you will suffer. Obi-Wan. Your pain has just begun.
Oh man, I love those fight scenes so much. I love Darth Vader so much. He's such a good character. From the beginning to the end, I don't care what anybody says about how Hayden Christensen acted in the original trilogy and the I don't like sand. I don't care. It was so good. Would you like sand if you were a slave in a desert? No, you wouldn't want to think about sand where your mother is still enslaved, where she died at the hands of Tusken Raiders, starved to death, beaten, tortured, maybe assaulted in other ways. That's what he has connected with sand. Everybody knows what he's trying to say there, okay? He's not just like, I don't like sand. There's deeper meaning to it, okay? You gotta think with your brains, all right? You gotta think with your brains. But man, I love that they brought it back. And I know it was called Obi Wan Kenobi, but we all know that show was not Obi Wan Kenobi. It was Kenobi Vader. You know, it was both of them. They're both the main character of that. And Leia, young Leia, I heard a lot of people complaining about young Leia on one side, and I heard a lot of people loving Leia on the other side. I'm on the side of loving that young Leia. I thought she was spunky, sassy, just like she is when she's older. She's heading right towards becoming a terrorist general, you know? She's right down there, you know?
Yeah, I thought she was a pretty good portrayal of basically what I would expect Leia to be when she was 8 years old or 7 years old, however old she was. And
you can see her mom in her, but you can also see her dad in her. And I really enjoyed that because it's always been Luke is like Anakin and Leia is like Padme. And you don't really get to see Padme's influence on Luke at all or Anakin's influence on Leia. And Leia would not be the general that she is if she was not Anakin's daughter.
Right.
Because while her mom may have been, you know, the political, majestic, savvy one, Anakin was a gosh darn killer. He could lead, and he did. I mean, the 501st wiped. I think Leia definitely got that from him. Now we just need something that shows the Padme side of Luke, because they did not do that in the sequels. Oh, wait. Actually, they kind of did. Because she gave up at the end of episode 3. She gave up and died. And so did he. Oh, man. Whew. It is poetic. Good job, Ron Johnson. You did it. I forgive you for everything. Okay. Moving on from Obi-Wan. We don't want to be here forever.
Summing up Obi-Wan. Fantastic. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
Yes.
Even if you don't like Star Wars, I think it's still going to be fantastic for you. I would start with Rogue One if you've never watched any Star Wars.
No, yeah. That'd be a good place to start.
But this series, if you're going to watch a series, this is the one to watch.
Well, I'd go with Mando if you're just going to watch one series.
Yeah, that's fair.
But they're both good.
Yes.
They both have their qualities. We got to move on. The hot dog. House of the Dragon. I did not watch House of the Dragon, but you did. Go on.
So this, for me, it kind of came out around the same time as another show that we're going to talk about, Rings of Power. And they were kind of competing. Even though Rings of Power kind of had like a better source material and everything, House of the Dragon still outdid it. It outshined it big time. The castings, pretty much all spot on. Perfect. The writing has been great. The dragons look great. Costume design looks fantastic. I give this series so far for one season 10 out of 10. And I pray to God that they don't screw it up the way they did Game of Thrones. But so far, highly recommend it. And I know you don't want to watch it because of like the gore and the excess nudity and all that stuff.
Nudity. I'm going to throw it out there, guys. Nudity in movies, generally speaking, in TV, is not necessary. If there's a scene in a movie that has nudity in it, purely needed to drive the plot forward for some reason, not sure where you would need that. I'm sure there are examples out there. I'm not opposed to it if it drives the story. But if you're just trying to lure in horny people to watch your show, I don't want to watch it.
Which I would tell you to watch House of the Dragon, because there's a lot less nudity than there is in Game of Thrones. And the little bit of nudity that I do remember seeing was probably within the first like 2 or 3 episodes. And then after that, it's all story. It's all character development. There's no useless nude scenes. Like, it's all plot points.
We'll see. We'll see if I give it a try someday. I'll have to think about it.
Anyway, House of the Dragon. I am Team Black. You follow along. And if you're Team Green, go for yourself. Anyway, moving on. What's our next series?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Rings of Power. Might as well talk about Rings of Power. So the much better thing coming out at the same time. Just kidding. Rings of Power. Amazon bought the rights to make Lord of the Rings. They decided to make a prequel set in the Second Age, I believe.
Yeah.
It follows Galadriel.
Elrond.
Yeah, Elrond is in there. Durin. And then little girl. Were that Harfoots? The Harfoots.
Yeah, the Harfoots.
Okay, so
remember her name.
the Hobbits canonically did nothing of any importance during this time. There was nothing exciting going on. They are very basic. They're literally, the Lord of the Rings opens with a giant history of hobbits. Okay? Amazon said, oh, well, these are Harfoots, not hobbits. They are hobbits. There are, I think, 3 kinds of hobbits, and Harfoot is one of them. So saying that they're not hobbits automatically lets me know that they did not read the source material and that they do not care about the source material. And so I went in there very unhappy. I didn't like what they were doing with Galadriel, because Galadriel, in my mind, is this elegant, beautiful lady, you know, who is powerful, but is more of a sorceress kind of powerful, not a running around with a sword powerful. Do I think that she could probably kill people with a sword? Yes. Do I think that I want to watch her run around with a sword and armor on and kill orcs? No. Because that's not how I see Galadriel when I read about Galadriel and when I watch the other Lord of the Rings stuff and The Hobbit. Because she's described to being the most beautiful creature that anybody sees, to the point to where all that Gimli wants from her as a gift is her hair. And then he gets, I think it's 2 strands of hair or something, 3 strands. And then he makes a ring out of it, or he puts it into a gemstone or something, and it becomes an heirloom among the dwarves that they love forever. That's how beautiful she is. And elegant and soft-spoken, but at the same time could probably whoop some butt, if she had to, because she's muy importante too. And to me, they just made her seem like a petulant child almost, very, I'm going to do what I want because I want to do it. And I get that she was upset about her brother dying in the First War. Very sad. But she didn't feel like Galadriel. The show overall, though, I would still say I liked. I thought the visuals were great. I thought the orcs looked good. Maybe the warg was a little off for me. Not a huge fan of the warg because it looked like a giant chihuahua hyena.
Yeah, it was ugly.
Yeah, I did like the wolves, though, that they showed with the Harfoot girl. Those were pretty cool looking. But the warg, I wasn't feeling it. The elves were cool. The dwarves were awesome. I loved the dwarves. Another thing that was a big point of contention for people was the bearded dwarf girls. I can't remember. I've done some reading into this before, and it seems to me, if I'm remembering correctly, that was strictly a Peter Jackson thing and not a Tolkien thing. But I've seen just as many people argue that it was a Tolkien thing. So at first I was kind of annoyed by it, but then I actually did the research and I was like, well, maybe it isn't an actual thing. So I kind of let it go. Didn't really bother me when I was watching it that she didn't have a beard or none of the girls had beards. Honestly, it probably would have been worse with the beard because women don't have beards in our world. And so saying it would just make us feel awkward and like we would know that something's out of place.
I agree. For me, same thing. If you go into it with the expectations set, then you might be let down in some areas.
Yeah, it is not Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not that. It's not on that level. It's not that great. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, fantastic. But if you set all that aside and you just watch it for what it is, I think it's pretty good. And you're right about Galadriel being, what'd you call her, a petulant child. She is, and I kind of was annoyed with her character at first, but the more I watched it, the more I was like, this reminds me of every time that I've always known that I was right about something and everybody else doubted me. Lo and behold, at the end, I was right.
But she also
was wrong.
She completely played into the hand of Sauron.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%. But, I mean, that was supposed to happen. And I'll give you props because you called out, what was his name?
Blacksmith.
Yeah, you called him out as being Sauron pretty early in the show.
I think it was before the show came out.
They got me. They got me. I did not see it coming.
Okay, and I cannot tell if they are supposed to be connected to Peter Jackson's movies or not. It is so hard because some things are literally directly from his movie. Right. And then other things are wildly different. For example, the wargs. look completely different in each
The
movies.
Balrog looks
The
exactly the
Balrog
same.
is the exact same.
Which I'm glad that they stuck with that design choice because that thing looks just menacing. I love it. I hope they never change it.
And then something I liked, but it's still, I don't know. I liked it at the time, but the more I think about it, the less I like it, is the speech that Halbrand / Sauron gives her when she's discovered who he is. And he says what she says in the books and in the movie about being
A great and terrible queen.
right. Foundations of the earth and all that stuff, right? So I liked it because it was a callback to her. But what I don't like about it is now it makes me feel like future Galadriel makes that speech to Frodo
Based off of that.
And I would rather her have come up with it herself. But I mean, it's nitpicky.
I see where you're going with that, but if you just take it as a new series and try to disconnect it from everything else, it holds up.
And that's what I was doing until they showed the Balrog.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. But the scene where they're on the raft and they're human and elf form are on top of the raft, but they look in the reflection of the water and they see Sauron in his black armor and Galadriel and her.
Best aesthetic ever.
That was such a cool scene.
I love the aesthetic of Sauron in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Okay, I think we've beat the dead horse on that one. There being a lot of dead horses after that volcano goes off. True.
Well, one more thing. The introduction of the Uruk-hai while they're still in their dark elf phase.
I don't think that kind of thing. I thought he was a different kind.
Pretty sure because he said that we refer to ourselves as Uruk-hai or something.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. But it also it
was cool.
It kind of gives me some thought into how far back the Second Age is.
Mm-hmm.
Because these dudes get buried in the ground, and they're there for, thousands of years?
He's the only... They're probably all buried. He's the only one that we've seen walking around.
No. You see more of them walking around, after the volcano goes off.
Those are the orcs, not Uruks.
No, you see Uruk-hai, too.
He's the only Uruk that I saw.
I might be wrong.
Because whenever they did the big fight at the end, he was leading a bunch of orcs.
Yeah, I know that.
So I think they're all buried already. The ones that are under the second tower... Not the Twin Tower. Yeah. I don't know. And so, as you can tell with this conversation, what this kind of leads up to is the show wasn't bad, but it also wasn't super memorable. I think part of that was because it was competing against House of the Dragon. But I will watch second season, though. I will watch the second season.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
If for nothing else, cut the story out and just look at it visually, and it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh, Isildur being in it. Okay. I don't want to get into that. It's going to be a way too long of a conversation.
Isildur's sister, though.
All right, well, I think that's about it for the TV series, with the exception of our dishonorable mention. I'm going to go worst TV series of the year.
100%.
Oh, yeah. At least anything that I've seen was the Halo series. It was awful, okay?
It was tragic.
Yes. Quick list of everything wrong with that show off the top of my head. The excess of nudity, like we were talking about earlier. I do not need that in Halo, okay? If you want to throw your nudity in Game of Thrones and stuff like that, fine, because it's in the books, right? It's sexual stuff. But I didn't need to see Master Chief naked as much as I saw him naked. Nope. I didn't need to see the terrorists naked as much as I saw them naked. I didn't need to see that weird Covenant girl naked as much as we had to see them naked. And Chief lost his virginity, which I did not need to see either. They added witches, ghosts, and not the purple flying little motorcycles, but actual ghosts of some girl's dad. They had AK-47s. They had 1980s Chevy Tahoes. The year is 2552, roughly, or maybe 2525, but it's in the 2500s. It is 500 years in the future, and they have a Chevy Tahoe that's considered an antique now with AKs, AK-47s, and his team isn't blue team, they're gray team, and not gray team, silver team. Same thing, just metallic color. A silver team with a bunch of characters you never heard of. So we don't have Fred, we don't have Kelly, we don't have, I can't even remember their names right now because I'm just so flustered. I read 25 books to get ready for this show, to absorb the lore, and they threw all of it out the window. The only thing that is connected to the game is a couple of names of objects. Spartans are still called Spartans. Master Chief is still called Master Chief. And they got rid of Sergeant Johnson. I don't know how you get rid of Sergeant Johnson in Halo. He was one of the original Spartans in the first place, and then became one of the most, I hate to say it, but bad characters.
One of the most iconic video game characters
Yes.
of all time.
Yes. And they just didn't introduce him, and they mixed him with a guy who dies in the first game by having his brain ripped out by Master Chief.
Captain Keyes.
Yes.
Yeah, how can you mix Sergeant Johnson and Captain Keyes? Both of which are pretty cool standalone characters.
By themselves, but together it doesn't make any sense. And then Miranda, she's a scientist now?
Right.
And not a captain of a ship? I didn't like that. I didn't like... Well, Halsey was pretty much Halsey. Yeah, I don't think Halsey was... Yeah.
They did a good job of making her very hateable.
And she's always been hateable, in my opinion.
So I'll give them that.
Yeah,
But
they did Halsey
that's
okay.
That's all I'll give them.
Yeah, Halsey was all right. The scene with Kai, or whatever her name is, sprinting towards that ship as it's taking off and jumping onto it, that was cool. Think of a lot of things that I can appreciate about the show. I mean, I'm trying to, because there's some people that actually put a lot of love and hard work into that show.
Even if they did a good job on some things, it's overshadowed by how terrible most of it is. Like, did the armor and costume design look good? It might have, but I don't remember, because all I can think is, what a big pile of...
And honestly, the props weren't good. I saw a plasma pistol being used by a character that was made out of foam. Like, you could see that it was just a foam prop. It looked awful. Maybe the armor looked okay, but the guns looked bad. They were using too many real guns. Peter Jackson, when he made that weird alien movie in... Was it Peter Jackson? The District 9?
District 9, yeah.
There are Halo guns in that movie because they had them made for a Peter Jackson Halo movie that ended up not getting made. But they used the props in that movie. And yet, you couldn't make props for the show that Steven Spielberg and Amblin Pictures is making. The people who make Jurassic Park, I don't understand how you mess up something. And the story, they wanted to do their own story. Guys, I read 25 books to get an understanding of the story of Halo, and I didn't even read all the books. That's how much story there is, not including the games. So you've got 6 mainline games. You got, 3, 4, maybe 5 spinoffs, tops, or something like that. So you've got over 10 games, maybe we'll say a dozen games roughly, and dozens of books, plus websites that's had lore in them forever. You've got encyclopedias about it. You've got all kinds of stuff that you can pull from. And you're like, we're going to do our own thing. And then they end the show, they end the season with Master Chief dead inside of his suit. And now his suit is just controlled by Cortana with his body in it. What? How? How do you make that your story? Like, you take somebody who is so loved by his fans that he is on the face of every Xbox. Literally every single Xbox inside of it has an engraving of Master Chief because he is so integral to the company. And they let this happen. I don't think Joseph Staten, who is one of the original creators of Halo, was involved at all, but somebody somewhere was. And if they haven't been fired yet or quit yet, they need to be. Whoever greenlit this show on Microsoft's side needs to get flogged. I mean, Phil Spencer, head of Xbox. There's no way he didn't see this show before it went public. There's no way. I can only imagine he was either so dumbfounded by it and it was too late for them to do anything, and he just had to let it go, or he doesn't deserve to be the head of Xbox anymore. Those are the 2 things that I feel about that, because the show was such a travesty.
What you were just saying about, like, people that are higher up, like the head of Xbox, he's looking at it, and he's either approving it, or, it's too late for him to do anything. That's the part about it that pisses me off the most, is like, you can make a garbage product. That's one thing. But to make a garbage product and then get on social media and tell the fans, like, stop bitching about our garbage product because we're appealing to a broader fan base.
Yes. F you. Yes. And that was, so the actor that played Master Chief did that hard.
Yes.
Pablo Schreiber. And what bothers me, I was super excited about him playing Master Chief. I loved him as an actor. He was in a couple of things that I had watched before this, and I really enjoyed him in. The way that he treated Halo fans during this whole thing, plus him thinking that the show is okay, is just unacceptable. And I literally lost my respect for him. I'm probably not going to ever look forward to anything he's in again because of the way that he talked to the fans about this. Like, I don't know how much he has been involved with Halo in his life, like played the games or read the books or anything like that. But he obviously doesn't care about it as much as the fans that he's trashing. You know, maybe we're a bunch of freaking nerds who need to get a life, but this is our thing, you know? If this is something that we want to love and we want to spend our time on, then the people who are making those things, if they want our money and our respect and everything else, then they need to give us something worth spending our money on. This was not it by any stretch of the imagination. Everywhere they could have messed up, I feel like they did. I mean, it was such an easy... I know I may be downplaying this a little bit because making a TV show or a movie is not easy. Let me get the point across at least. It's so easy to just adapt what they already have because they have so much. All you got to do story-wise is figure out what part you want to do.
You could have taken all of the cutscenes from the Halo video games and just made those live action with good props, and that would have been a better series.
Yeah, and just throw some fight scenes in between there. People probably would have been okay with that. Just there's so many things that they missed out on. I mean, Blue Team by itself was such a huge loss. Such a huge loss.
Just remember that every dollar you spend is a product or a source of entertainment that you're voting for. So do not watch season 2 if season 2 even comes out. Because if you do, you're just supporting these people that are spitting in the face of Halo fans.
Mm-hmm. The only reason I finished the first season was because of how much I respect and love Halo, the games, where I had this make sure, like, maybe they can pull it off in the end. Maybe they can tie this together somehow to where it doesn't hurt my soul. It just didn't. Then it just turned into watching a train wreck. You know, you're just standing there watching as it happens. It's like time slowed down, man. A sex scene with Master Chief. The dude has gotten so many augmentations to his body. And the only person he's ever had a relationship with in the books and the games is Cortana. And on an emotional level and not a physical level, obviously, because she's an AI. But it just, oh gosh, it hurts to think about because I was looking forward to it so much. It was announced in 2012 with Steven Spielberg attached to it. Steven Spielberg is one of my favorite directors of all time, and I still to this day think he's probably one of the greatest directors of all time. But he just produced this, and I don't think he even watched it, to be honest. I don't think he knew anything about Halo, or he still probably doesn't know anything about Halo. Whoever was working on it obviously didn't care about Halo because it was such a bad thing. Like, I would rather watch Morbius every day for years than to ever watch that show again or even think about it. I've blocked it out of my mind until today. I haven't thought about it since it came out, and I was so upset. And then we were writing this, and we were trying to pick out what shows, and then I saw Halo had come out this year, and I was like, oh, that's got to be the dishonorable mention because it's just so bad.
It was traumatizing. We could have a class action lawsuit against them for traumatizing us.
One of the books that I read right before the show came out was so emotionally impactful for me. I'm not a person that cries.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. Lately I have, just because I've been really emotional since my kid was born. That's for a whole nother reason. In general, like between my childhood and in the last year, the only movie that had ever made me cry was Dragonheart. No book had ever made me cry. No video game had ever made me cry. No TV show had ever made me cry. But I was reading this Halo book, and oh my gosh, dude, I had to pull over because I was listening to an audiobook in my car when I was going to freaking Cracker Barrel to pick up dinner for my wife and myself. I was bawling, bro, because somebody died. Like, one of the characters had died. And 5 books, I read about this character for 5 books and his team, and then he gets his neck snapped by some stupid prophet. And it hurts to think about. I could never get that kind of emotional reaction from this TV show. It could never,
it'll make you cry.
Not the same.
Not in that way.
It'll give me an emotional reaction, but it's called rage, and it's not one that I want to have watching a TV show. But man, it like the people who wrote that show will never create anything half as good as any of the books or the games. So to everybody who made that show on the writing side of it and the decision makers for the story and all that, you suck and you need to find a new business and stay away from video game adaptations. I hear Gears of War is getting ready to get adapted. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it, okay? Stay away from our nerdy stuff. Go make something else. Go do a Twilight series or something. Like, stay away from my video games, especially the ones that actually have good stories. If you want to make a video game thing, what's a crappy game? Do Fortnite, okay? Do a Fortnite show, okay?
Well, Master Chief is in Fortnite. So.
Fine. If they want to do Master Chief in Fortnite. All right? But don't do my Master Chief. All right? Don't do him like that. Same with everybody that made Resident Evil. Throw that out there right now. Every Resident Evil live action ever. You all suck. Especially you, Paul Anderson. And your stupid Mila Jovovich. Alright, moving on. Gosh darn it. Video games next year, Marty. Or this year. Ooh, I'm fired up, boy. I'm fired up from them Halos.
We're 2 hours in. And
We're 2 hours in.
And Frank is hot.
I'm feeling good right now. Alright, guys. That wraps up this part. We're going to move on to the next part. And the next part's going to be video games 2022. As you can tell by me and my rants right now. All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.